New York State 40th Senate District candidate Greg Ball. Greg, how are you today?
Good morning.
Greg,
how are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
I dressed appropriately.
Yes,
I know you like pink.
Very nice shirt. I like it.
Yeah, you would look great on you. I'd get you one.
Greg, who is Greg Ball? You came out of nowhere in 2005.
Yep.
And you became our state assemblyman for the 99th District.
Yep.
2 terms.
What was I thinking?
What were you thinking exactly?
Politics is dirty, nasty business, I'll tell you that. But a lot has changed. I mean, we've taken the entire power infrastructure in Putnam County and in the larger Hudson Valley and really turned it on its head. A lot of the issues that I was talking about back then, they said, oh, Greg Ball's crazy. He's talking about a property tax cap. That's
crazy as a fox.
People can say whatever they want. I mean, if it's crazy because I believe that working class people are getting screwed every single day, if it's crazy because I believe that we shouldn't have criminally illegal aliens go out drinking and driving and killing people, if it's crazy because I believe that government spending is just beyond where it should be, if it's crazy because seniors are being taxed out of their homes and I think that we should stop that, then you know what, go ahead, certify me as crazy, and there are about 70% of the people out there who are also certified as crazy. We're not crazy. We're crazy of the sick and tired crazy of these career politicians who are running our state and our communities into the ground. And 2 million New Yorkers have already left the state. The people that are paying the bills are leaving the state.
People forgot the experience under Mario Cuomo in the 80s where New York lost several million people. And the effects, we still feel those effects. And I think the repercussions are the people moving out. Like you said, we lost 2 million in the last decade.
Yeah.
And this is not right.
No, our state leads all other states in out migration. So you have states like North Carolina, Texas, Arizona. They're seeing you go to their cities. You go to a city like Austin, and you'll see mid-sized, large buildings being built. You'll see cranes. A crane is a sign that there's actually construction projects. In the Hudson Valley, if you have dirt under your fingernails, if you're in construction, you have 40% unemployment rate. Meanwhile, my opponent, you talk about crazy. This guy increased spending in Westchester County by $1 billion. He increased taxes personally as budget appropriations chairman by over 42%. And this guy's so crazy that he thinks that he can now say, "Well, I have seen the light." Hallelujah, I have seen the light. He is coming to the altar of fiscal conservatism.
And
he's crazy
revival.
enough to think that people are going to believe him. So we'll see. I mean, November 2nd is going to be very interesting.
Well, I mean, you grew up in Pauling, which is essentially in the heart of the 40th District.
I got my first pair of shoes when I was 12. Used to walk through the snow every single You're 9 years.
I'm not going to buy that one. But,
the snow part of the shoes.
Well, you have a blue-collar background like I do and most of the people in this district do. I mean, what was it like growing up?
I live in a 400-square-foot shack.
I've been there.
In Putnam Lake. I think my septic is a old tin can with chicken wire around it. And I promised to give up my all-outside income as an assemblyman, and I did that.
Which you have, yeah.
My parents think I'm absolutely crazy, because you make $79,000 a year, which is not a small amount of money, but I spend $40,000 a year on chicken dinners that I don't eat and wouldn't eat if you paid me, more than I paid for it. So, but it's about public service.
Well, so, I mean, your experience growing up in Pauling, I mean, your family was not wealthy by any means.
No.
They were working class. Your mom was a very hard worker. Your dad was a very hard worker. You were a very hard worker. So when you speak about fiscal responsibility, you know firsthand that you have to live within your means. And tell us about growing up in Pauling.
Well, I mean, we were the caretakers on the estate, and I'll never forget watching. Some of my best memories are my mom on an old Alice Chalmers tractor from about, it was in the 80s then. That tractor was probably from about the 1950s, and she'd be driving around cutting the grass as the rich people drove by in their Range Rovers. I mean, and that's who I am. So as people say, "Oh, Republican, Democrat." Look, both parties have been corrupted by the special interests. Both parties have been corrupted by the corporate interests and the very powerful, whether it be in Albany or in Washington.
Yeah, it's very true in New York, I believe.
They do not care.
No,
I mean, I look at George Bush. I disagree with the spending. I disagree with some of the national policy levels. But really, under Obama ran and said, "Look, we're going to get out of Iraq and we're going to stop Bush's spending." He expanded into Afghanistan and has now spent more than every other president in American history combined. So really, Obama is just Bush's third term. I mean, did you get a bailout?
No.
Because I'm still paying 27% credit card debt. And a lot of the people I know are.
They actually told me that I owed more money on my last taxes and took the bailout.
There you go. There you go, right? So, I mean, it's ridiculous. Blue-collar people who are working for a living, small business owners, people who create jobs in this country, were not taken care of. So whether it be Bush, Obama, I don't care. You name the politician. It's because they come through that party infrastructure. I just beat a hand-picked candidate in a primary, and I'm going against in the general election a hand-picked candidate from Albany. When the hand of Albany comes down, imagine what the hand looks like. It's got to be like jagged and have like really long nails and all this. When the hand of Albany comes down and picks their candidate, they do not pick their candidate for independence. They do not pick that candidate because they believe that candidate is going to.
Why would they? It doesn't serve their interest.
Status quo works for them. So he's a showman. He's a clown. I mean, he likes to get in front of a crowd and make jokes and all sorts of stuff, and he makes people laugh. But I'll tell you what, we're not going to be laughing when we get the tax bill from this guy. And the people in Westchester County aren't laughing because they're spending over $1 billion more now because of this guy. They have taxes that have gone through the roof. And on this man's watch, Tax Hike Mike, on Tax Hike Mike's watch, as budget chairman, this is the Shelley Silver of White Plains, he was in full opportunity to either make tax relief or increase taxes. He increased taxes. On his watch, Westchester County became the highest taxed county in the United States of America.
I mean, I know your adversary personally, on a personal level. Nice guy. His tax record, his fiscal record is abysmal. But one of the things I worry about the most.
You know, the other thing you talk about.
One of the things I worry about the most is that we are in your campaign office. It's very busy. Let's. That's okay. Come on. Hi. How are you? Very good.
Come on. What do you got?
You're big enough for everybody. But anyhow, you know, one of the biggest things that I speak to people and that they're worried about regarding your adversary is that he is touting his independence now, but that the moment that he arrives in Albany, that he is going to be welcomed.
It's very
welcomed in, under their big tent, and
it's very simple. The people of this district, the Assembly District, the people of Westchester and Putnam, in Dutchess County, even the people who disagree with me, and this is not about any social issues. I'm going to Albany not to dabble in the fringes of issues. I'm going to Albany to turn that city on its head and transform New York and get us back on track. They know my independence. Nobody can question my independence. I was the only Republican in this state to stand up, the first Republican in the state to stand up and ask Joe Bruno to step down 2 years before his indictment.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you were
on the comptroller vote. I stood up on the floor of the legislature in front of 149 of my colleagues, and I said, "This is the nation's most dysfunctional legislature, uniting the entire body to boo me." You know, I mean, that type of independence. Now, my opponent has a record as well. He was Tax Hike Mike was Andy Spano's toy poodle. There is not a single hoop that Andy Spano didn't hold up that Tax Hike Mike didn't jump through.
Listen, for the other people that didn't live that are in your district that live in Putnam and Dutchess County,
yeah.
I mean, explain to them the Andy Spano tax record and spending record.
I mean, Andy Spano was a county executive in Westchester County. When Andy Spano asked Tax Hike Mike to rubber stamp the Obama-Pelosi federal low-income housing debacle that would provide low-income housing not to Westchester County taxpayers who were overtaxed, seniors, firemen, but out-of-state, out-of-county, low-income residents, Tax Hike Mike said not only yes, hell yes, and rubber stamped that $60 million federal low-income unfunded mandate on the backs of Westchester County taxpayers. When Andy Spano asked Tax Hike Mike to rubber stamp over $1 billion, imagine a county budget. Dutchess and Putnam, we think of small, $1 billion in spending. Tax Hike Mike rubber stamped it. He didn't just say yes. He said, Andy Spano, how high? Can't we increase them higher? Literally, one of the budgets, Tax Hike Mike voted no. And you would think, well, he voted no because it increased. No, he was upset because it didn't increase sales tax enough. Every single time on patronage and jobs, when Andy Spano asked Tax Hike Mike to increase over $200,000 in annual stipends to legislative staff, $20,000 spent on gourmet food in the course of 1 year for the legislators, staff increases every single year. This is a county legislator. This should be a board of supervisors. If anything, he should be eliminating.
And meanwhile, people are worried about buying food and heating their homes.
Exactly.
And they're eating gourmet food.
And now this guy is going around saying, "I have seen the light. I have seen the light. I am a fiscal conservative." And he's saying, not only am I a fiscal conservative, but I have been one forever. I mean, he's either lost a little something or he's lying, and we all know that what's going on.
It's campaign rhetoric, and I had commented to your friend Jim Coleman, who
he's my friend.
Yeah, isn't he? That's what he said. But me and Jim were having a discussion, and
depends upon the week.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have differences with the people around because that makes you think.
That's right.
But one of the things I've noticed going to the political events and everything else is that there is very few working class people or older people working for your adversary. It seems to be a lot of young people that I don't think many of them own a home.
Well, they're actually not from this district.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, Albany has sent in busloads of. They used to be Howard Dean people. Now they were the Obama people, and now they're working in this district for my opponent, Tax Hike Mike. So he does not have any grassroots support. I mean, why would you have grassroots? I mean, the guy's been increasing taxes now for 12 years, and he has had the gall. Now, when I was serving in the United States military, this guy was rubber stamping tax increases as the chairman of budget and appropriations, and he's had the gall to say that I'm a career politician. Meanwhile, he's been in office for over 12 years. I got to tell you, if I lost this election, I win on a personal level. I mean, it is a disgusting business. And if you actually stand for what you believe in and you stick true to what's in your heart and what's in your head,
your target.
You become a target, and this is a horrible business to be in. I have no intention of going up to Albany and being there for 20, 30 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. I want to go up there because the reforms that are needed were needed not yesterday, they were needed 15 years ago.
Well, there's another issue, too, here, besides, the fiscal crisis that the state of New York is in. We are looking at redistricting, and if...
that's actually another good example. My opponent, Tax Hike Mike, goes around and says, I support term limits. He refuses to support term limits.
He won't sign the pledge.
He will not sign the pledge. So we have a term limit chicken that we sent out to get him to sign that pledge. I think we're going to have to get a duck because he keeps ducking that pledge, right? But, he talks about, but in his response, very political response, is that he says, all we need is fair redistricting. During redistricting as chairman, right, when he was down at the county legislature, and literally, you got to understand, this guy was in a real position of power. The Sheldon Silver White Plains, the Sheldon Silver Westchester County, he actually used redistricting in his county to cut out his future opponent out of the district. So here's the guy who says, when I get to Albany, we're going to have fair redistricting. When he was the county legislator, he used his power to cut out his fiercest opponent out of the map. It literally goes around his house like it's a little polygon or something like that. I mean, this guy really. I mean, and he can say things with clarity, and people believe it. He thinks that people are going to believe it. So, we have a tough 3 weeks ahead. We have a tough few weeks ahead, and we got to hold this guy accountable because God forbid he was ever elected to the New York State Senate. He would be a clear and present. He already is a clear and present danger to the taxpayers of Westchester County. He would be an unmitigated disaster, a rubber stamp for the powerful New York City-driven interests that are in Albany. He would go around as state senator and tell us all the things we want to hear in the district, and then he would do all the horrible things he did as budget chairman in White Plains up in Albany, and this state would continue to be run into the ground. And at that point, we might as well say, which state do we want to go to? North Carolina? I'd pick Texas.
Yeah,
Arizona.
Texas is doing
where
well.
do you where do you want to go?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people think that the entire nation is suffering from this economic crisis that is nationwide.
A lot of states are pulling out.
But there's a lot of states Texas is one of them. Yeah. They're doing very well.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because they let the government get the hell out of the way.
New York State is in the position right now where the private sector exists. Unfortunately, this is what has happened. The private sector now exists to really fund the public sector. In my opinion,
the budget has doubled in the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
It used to be 60-something billion. Now it's over 130 billion.
And the Westchester County government spending did the exact same thing. And that's why we have got to work. We have got to come together as a community to make sure that this guy doesn't only not win this seat, but we put him into an early retirement in his reelection for county legislature next year.
Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to get you a beautiful pink shirt like this.
Sure. Just make sure it's an extra large so it fits.
Absolutely.
Greg, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Eye on Putnam. I'm Philip Marin.